What's the most pimped shed you've seen?
I've seen all sorts of sheds. We sold a shed a couple of weeks ago to Gemma Collins. So that was she put that on Instagram.
Tell us about that.
So what's the key to the growth then? How did that happen? You went from 13 in a week to 300 in the first stage of growth. How did you do that? Marketing wise?
I think because we'd worked in the industry for a long time, we knew literally every complaint someone would have about a shed. So when we wrote them all down and redesigned the shed, we tried to make sure we ticked off every one of those complaints, so we'd never get a complaint.
Launching a brand in an unbranded market, I'm immediately trying to think of other. There must be a ton of sectors with that are dominated by unbranded products. So that's.
I think it's things like what people would describe as a commodity, like a radiator or carpet. There's not really big brands out there, but if you can brand the biggest commodity in the world, such as water, why can't you brand a shed? And that's what we're setting out to do.
Welcome back to Socially Acceptable. This week we've got a brilliant episode. We've got somebody called Jack Sutcliffe. He's an entrepreneur who's set up a company that's become the EY Entrepreneur of the Year finalist. He's a 2-time Great British Entrepreneur Award winner, and he's the Lloyd's National Business Award winner. He even won an eBay award for innovation. The brand's called Power Sheds. They're the 20th fastest growing company in the UK, according to the Sunday Times. So Jack has built a disruptive business where there was no brand before. It was all just own brands. And Jack talks us through how he's done that, how he's grown it from nothing to 300 sheds a week, an 80 people business, and a business that's widely known in the UK as one of the fastest growing companies. So yeah, sit back, relax, and let's listen to what Jack's got to say.
Welcome to Socially Unacceptable, from f***ups to fame, the marketing podcast that celebrates the professional mishaps, mistakes and misjudgments while delivering valuable marketing and life lessons in the time it takes you to eat your lunch.
Thanks for joining us and welcome to Socially Unacceptable. This week we're very lucky to be joined by the amazing Jack Sutcliffe, who's here to talk about his business Power Sheds. He's been listed as Entrepreneur of the Year. He's been a 2-time Great British Entrepreneur Award winner, and there's several awards that he's won. And he's here to talk about how he's grown his business online and obviously tell us a few bumps and mishaps on the way as well. So welcome to the show, Jack.
Thank you.
Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about the business? And I'm particularly interested in the name Power Shed. So how did you come up with that?
I think I took a bit of inspiration from someone like Simba Mattress. So Simba Mattress has the domain name Simba Sleep. It has Simba as the brand. Everyone knows that Simba Mattresses. So by picking what I thought was the strongest brand name possible in power, the actual domain name is powersheds.com. The brand's Power, but it allows us to create sub-brands under that in the future. So there's Power Sheds, there's Power Cabins, there's Power Decking, there's Power Play for play equipment. So we're looking for the strongest brand possible, which has global sort of scale and ability. So Power could be translated in different countries, not just in the UK.
So whereabouts are you based?
So based in Bradford.
Right.
We deliver across the UK.
Yeah.
We're a month away from launching in Germany, and we're 2 months away from launching in Ireland. You might wonder why we did it that way around, which we'll come on to. But yeah, started in Bradford, but deliver sheds nationally.
Okay, that's and what I read when I read online about the business, a lot of it's sustainable wood, right? So how does that work? How do you get sustainable wood? I mean, I'm interested in that. Everybody's talking about sustainability, obviously.
Yeah, the sheds are made from sort of timber, which is responsibly sourced. So the forestries will actually they'll plant 3 trees for every one that's cut down. The shed's sent on a recycled pallet, which is predominantly packaging free. So timber obviously stores carbon rather than, say, a plastic or metal shed. So it is generally a better product that people like to put in the garden.
And what kind of sheds do you sell then? Presumably all sorts.
Yeah, well, how we started was that if you imagine the most popular shed in the industry might be an 8 foot by 6 foot shed. You have an 8 foot side and a 6 foot side. So we tried to make it an easier process to manufacture and deliver. So again, going back to the mattress analogy, which is mattresses were difficult to deliver. Someone brought them out a mattress in a box, really easy to deliver. We did the same by bringing out a modular shed that fits on a pallet. So every one of our sheds, we've got 1,000 different SKUs, but all made from 4 foot or 2 foot components. So they all fit on a pallet, which means we can send it out through a pallet network. And that means you don't have to wait 6 weeks for a shed anymore. We can deliver one next day delivery nationwide because we send it through a pallet courier.
So I get I get a power shed delivered to my house. Is it? But do I have to build it?
Yes.
Oh my God.
But if you bought something from IKEA, you'd have to build it as well.
Yeah, true.
But you get instructions, you get video instructions, and we also have an installation directory where you can find an installer in your local area.
So you've been going 4 or 5 years, is it?
4.5 years we started.
Right.
So we started with just the two of us. So there's me and Simon. We worked for another shed company. We decided to leave. We had a little bit of money saved up, and we leased a small factory in Bradford, and we bought a second-hand machine off eBay. In that first month, we sold 14 sheds.
Right.
We then thought we're going to need to employ someone, so we got a member of staff. After a year, we were up to 300 sheds a week with 36 members of staff. Outgrew the premises that we were at, so we leased a larger factory 4 times the size, 44,000 square foot, just down the road in Bradford. Retained the existing site, and we got up to 80 members of staff producing 700 sheds a week. And with the old site, started manufacturing log cabins, for like home offices or gyms or garden bars.
So what's the key to the growth then? How did that happen? You went from 13 in a week to 300. The first stage of growth. How did you do that? Marketing wise?
Because we'd worked in the industry for a long time, we knew literally every complaint someone would have about a shed. So when we wrote them all down and redesigned the shed, we tried to make sure we ticked off every one of those complaints. So we'd never get a complaint. So we had a product which was good quality, reliable. We sent it through a pallet delivery network, which meant it was a reliable delivery service, delivered on time, delivered quicker than everybody else. We started to pick up really, really good reviews. So we were one of the only companies in the industry with a good online reputation. We have a brand that stands out, I believe, in the marketplace. And we just generally snowballed into rapid growth.
And I was quite interested to hear you talk about Simba and some of the mattress in the box companies. They're obviously challenger brands. They've entered an existing market. They've disrupted that market, and they've absolutely flown. Did you always set out to be a bit of a challenger brand, offering something a little bit alternative in the market?
We try to be a brand in what we believe is still an unbranded market. So there's no big brand out there in sheds, whereas mattresses, which is 10, 15 years in the future, where you've got Simba, Casper, Eve, Emma, you've got some big
Sealy.
brands. And I'm sure there's many more. But in sheds, you've got Buy Sheds Direct, Garden Buildings Direct, Shed Store, things that you'd probably search for on Google 15, 20 years ago. So a name that was based on an SEO term. So we've having a brand in an unbranded market to try and change that industry up. That's what we set out to do.
And the way that how do you buy it? Is it all online? Is that how you've done the business?
So you can buy it online. We've got a website, but we also sell through the trade. So we sell through Wix and Travis Perkins and Robert Dias and Wayfair. And what the difference is between us and other shed manufacturers is that other manufacturers that sell online under their brand, if they sold it through a garden centre or a trade place like a Wix, they'd change the brand or sell it as unbranded, because they're worried that a Wix would be worried that a customer would go directly to buy and they'd lose out on that sale. Whereas to grow the biggest brand, we want our brand everywhere. So we've kept the same brand everywhere. We have a pricing strategy where on our website we never undercut that trade customer.
Okay.
So launching a brand in an unbranded market, I'm immediately trying to think of other. There must be a ton of sectors with that are dominated by unbranded products. So that's. I
think it's things like what people would describe as a commodity, like a radiator or carpet. There's not really big brands out there, but if you can brand the biggest commodity in the world, such as water, why can't you brand a shed? And that's what we're setting out to do.
And what I'm interested in, it's it's not your classic kind of glamorous sector, is it? You think of kind of challenger brands or disruptive brands, and you think about things like cars or fast fashion or
EasyJet.
Airlines or tech, but sheds. But you've clearly done that, and I mean, you've won all sorts of awards for growth, fast-growing company.
So we got an eBay award for innovation. We were listed in the Sunday Times fastest 100 companies. We finished 20th in that. So, with the growth that we've got, it's certainly recognised. The Ward Hadaway do it based on Companies House records. So it's factual
Fact.
rather than subjective. And that's when we're at the top in Yorkshire.
Yeah, which is amazing. Which is obviously, we're based in Yorkshire. That's what I thought you were a great brand example to get you into to hear about it. So I suppose then, with that sort of rapid growth, because you surely have had good growing pains with that, because you can't go from like 14 people, one machine in your back garden to 300 people. How's that been in terms of growth with people? How have you scaled so fast?
I think having a modular concept makes it scalable because we might have 1,000 SKUs, but we only have 50 components to make. So manufacturing wise, it's been quite easy. But a lot of people attribute the growth to COVID, which helped from a sales perspective.
Right.
But then from a purchasing perspective, it was really, really challenging. So you've got as many sales as you could possibly ever imagine, but you can't buy enough wood. And the wood prices are going up and up and up every month. So what you found that most companies in the industry sold as many sheds as possible and built up 26-week plus lead times in the middle of the pandemic. Whereas we didn't want to put ourselves at a risk of having such a long lead time, so we had to slow sales down.
Okay.
So what we did is we turned off the website, which not many people would have done when you've got all these sales. We turned off the website.
Literally turned it off.
That's a
Turn
brave
over.
decision.
So we chose to keep our trade customers happy. Some of them are garden centres who had had to shut down themselves and selling remotely. Keep them happy, keep the lead time down. Those companies that had sold a shed on week 1, came to build it on week 24, ended up selling it at a loss because they ended up making it at the timber price they bought it at then rather than the timber price of what it was 24 weeks before.
It's like you've got to hedge your price of your
And
materials.
nobody knew at that time what was going to happen in the pandemic. So by restricting our lead time to 6 weeks, keeping trade customers happy, which meant they were happy with us, so we built up a long-term relationship with them. And we went for that rather than building up a short-term profit.
Online, yeah, a one-off sales basically. Because it must be the lead time for a normal purchase for shed must be like one every 15 years. So you've only been going 5. So you're going to be expecting that customer might come back in 10, 20 years.
There's a customer and the trade customer who will be selling our sheds for the next 50
exactly.
years.
Repeat business basically.
Yeah, that's quite. I mean, we do a fair bit in the furniture and work with some bed brands as well. And you look at a mattress and it's an occasional purchase, isn't it? Every 10 to 15 years. So I'm curious how you manage that with sheds. How do you persuade somebody to buy a shed if or do you have to hit them at that point when you're at the 10-year mark, the 15-year mark, their current shed's dilapidated, they might need a bigger one. How do you get around that?
There's one side that sheds are, it's not like a fashion, whereas your clothing changes every few months and your fashion changes. The most popular shed has been the same for 25 years. So that makes it a little bit easier for us to manage. We're just focusing on managing the same product range and not having to worry about other things. But yeah, not everybody buys a shed all the time. So you've got to what we've seen is that because the prices have gone up so much in the past couple of years with timber price increases, that sheds have become a more considered purchase. So now people are not just going online and buying the cheapest shed. They're thinking, it's now £700 for a shed, not £400 for a shed, so I'll do a bit of research. So they might be looking at reviews. And whereas before, when you only sell one shed, a lot of companies in our industry didn't care about reviews. If the customer's got the problem, they'll blame it on the base or blame it on the customer installing it badly. Whereas if we focus on having good customer service, good reviews, when they are come to do the research, when they haven't heard of any brand because there isn't a brand out there, they pick the ones who they think they'll help us out if something goes wrong. So focusing on that customer service side and those reviews has been quite key to us.
So how many employees did you say you had?
We've got 80 now.
80. And how's that from 2 to 80? Has that been completely easy?
There's a bit of risk involved because we just set up a new site. We had we just set up a new site and we had a summer that was coming where we expected to sell a lot of sheds, and we had a challenge to get 50 members of staff in sort of 3 weeks' time. So,
wow. And how did you do that?
What, so you had 30 people, then you needed another 50, or did
Yeah.
you need... Is that where you were?
No, we had 30 people, but we needed another 50. But what happens is, because we can't be as selective when we're employing so many, and we've really de-skilled the manufacturing process, so you don't need qualified joiners to make sheds. You need people who've got a good attitude. They come in, they're on time, they're willing to learn, they want to progress, and then we'll train them. So by looking for those attributes and sort of the mindset, the values, rather than the capability and experience. We've brought in a lot of people and trained them ourselves. And we always find that some drop off, some don't work out, whether it's because they're not right for us or we're not right for them.
Yeah.
Because it is quite a physical job. So we've employed a lot of people just on how we feel they will fit into that company. And the ones that haven't worked out have not worked out. So let's say that drops by 20%. You've then got a good number of people who's coming who's learning. Because everyone in our company is less than 3 or 4 years of experience. And we've got people who's had 4 pay increases within a year. They've gone from a shop floor member of staff to a manager within 4 years. So we've grown that quickly, that people have progressed quickly as well.
So taking a bit of a step back then, obviously marketing is absolutely key to you achieving this amazing growth. You've talked about customer reviews, which we'll focus on in a sec. You obviously do the kind of the PPC, you've got a website, you've done TV advertising. What are the most effective kind of marketing activities then that you would say you've done over the last 3 years that have really driven that growth?
I mean, there's the ones that everyone does, which is PPC and social media and stuff. But I guess the ones that are maybe a little bit different, we've done such as things that are not really trying to get sales. So we started an allotment hints and tips group on Facebook, which was very simply set up a Facebook community page where people can share ideas on allotments. And we got a few people who joined, and then just every week people joined. And now we're the biggest allotment community group on Facebook.
I saw that. How did you get the growth on that though? How did you get that? That's a pun, isn't it? On the allotment, how did you grow the allotment online on the Facebook?
I did
group?
a little bit of paid advertising to get the first 100 to 150 people.
Right.
I put on the odd tip myself, which I found on Google somewhere. And then eventually people started asking each other questions.
And it's become a living, breathing community.
It's huge, yeah.
So do you moderate it? Is it light touch moderation, or do you just let them get on with it?
We've got some people who's members of the group moderate it, and I just leave it with them. And then every so often we'll drop in a competition from Power Sheds or a Happy Christmas from Power Sheds type of message.
I was going to say how
often?
Yeah,
very rarely, because I don't want it to be
you want it to be authentic.
Yeah, I don't want it to be a sales place where we start advertising and taking over. It is a community.
So genuine community where people aren't sold to. You can occasionally dip in. You obviously own it. So
so our name's at the top, owned by Power Sheds. It's got our logo in the banner at the top. Other than that, we just let them.
How many members is that group got?
120,000.
120,000.
Wow.
It's not bad to say you only got the first 150 and then they've just piled in.
Yeah, if it's something that's genuinely useful to people, which I think it is, then it adds value. Then
and so what about your social media strategy for your main pages then? How did you come about with that?
Yeah, for the social stuff, we try and do something just that's fun. So we get staff involved, we film them doing silly things, and they all really, really enjoy it. It ends up being a good advertising tool for recruitment. People want to be a part of the company. On social, we do like on Instagram and stuff. We find it useful more for B2B than B2C. So you get the customer who goes on the website, they look on Instagram, I quite like that product, they go back on the website and buy. But it's as simple as we'll follow a garden centre, we'll like a few of their posts, I'll comment on the odd one, and then 3 or 4 weeks later I'm getting a message saying, can we sell your sheds? So I never really approach a garden centre to say, can I come and pitch to you? We just let them know about us, and by doing good, interesting things on social, the garden centre, the trade customer, comes to us and asks to sell our shed. Just
like a bit of a sort of social media PR podcast that you might come on and meet another interesting, innovating PR agency, you mean?
Maybe so.
So obviously the allotment community, that you're playing the long game there, aren't you? That's just about, presumably that's just building the brand.
Adding value.
They might convert in 5 years, in 10 years.
Yeah, giving something back.
Yeah. With consumer organic social media then, do you ever sell to people, or again, is it about building the brand, building trust, etc.?
We never sell to people because we've done stuff with influencers, which when it builds a brand, it works. When it's buy a shed and we'll give you this voucher code, it never sells. Okay. And when it's something that's a considered purchase, not an impulse buy, you need a shed when your shed's falling down, then they'll have gone on Google and be searching for a shed if they need a shed. If we're advertised on social for a shed, I don't believe that they'll then, I'm going to buy a shed now, because it's not something that you just need there and then.
So organic SEO and PPC is really where, because you've got the search intent to buy a shed, you're right. It's not something you just think, I could really do with a shed today. It's not like, it's a very considered
And this is about trusting the process, isn't it? It's and we often speak to clients about this. You say the right things, you build the trust, you build community, the sales will come, providing you're doing the bread and butter like PPC and things. So
it's hard to measure because you don't know where it came from 10 years ago. But
it's no bad thing, is it? It's a good thing to build that community and build those relationships. Back to reviews then. So what's your review strategy? Obviously, people, when they're in the mindset to buy a shed, they'll go online, they'll look at your website. It's very helpful in that respect. How do you actually generate reviews? Have you kind of automated that process?
We did have a auto email that sent out after it's been placed, but because we've got a good review score now, we've kind of left it alone and just
let it do itself.
Just let it do itself. But
right.
The best reviews we get is when we mess up every single time, because it's
really?
So we don't get good reviews by just delivering it on time. We get good reviews by missing a panel, breaking it, not getting delivered, but then fixing it really quickly.
The cynical me would say you should do that deliberately occasionally, and then
it'll cost us more money because we have to send out that piece. But because it's a pallet-based product, if we're missing a panel or it's damaged on arrival, we can send that panel out on the next day, and we'll keep them in the loop, and we'll check in afterwards, and then suddenly we've got a good review on Trustpilot. So we get the best reviews is when we fix things and offer that good service. We might give them a free planter as an apology, but
this show is about fuck-ups, and I want to just revert back to my glamorous business partner here, because sheds, Will's something of an expert in sheds.
Where's this going?
Will built a shed, didn't you? Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember the shed I built, yeah.
How did it go then?
Well, it's still leaking, let's put it that way.
Didn't you go outside and smash it up?
Yeah, I tried to build a shed, very small shed, very cheap shed on my own, and then I spent a whole day with my wife watching me from the window. It wasn't right, so I ended up just smashing it.
It wasn't a power shed. It didn't clip together. I think that he got in a rage.
And every time I drive my car off the driveway, I see it, and it makes me angry. Even now,
he should have come to you. You said
he's learned his lesson.
I have learned my lesson. Yeah. So you must have made a few fuck ups along the way, shall we say? Anything that springs to mind, either with this business or earlier on in your career, that you think, God, I shouldn't have done that?
I've probably made because we're so fast to move, we make very, very quick decisions, which means some of those decisions will be wrong. And there's lots of things, systems that I've chosen, people that I've chosen to work with, members of staff that we've recruited that we shouldn't have done this. So there's thousands of things that I do wrong probably every day. There's probably some bigger things I've done wrong. Like I think I remember when we set up the passwords for our CMS, for our system to log in to our website, I put the password as Jack, which wasn't a great password. And
when the owner's called Jack, no.
And obviously we got hacked. So
it wasn't Shed. That would have been even worse.
Shed one.
That'd be the next one, our password.
Yeah.
So we got hacked, and then suddenly on the
when you got hacked, did they hold you to ransom or?
No, it wasn't like someone rang us up. But what we found was it was a robot, because then we had thousands of pages on the Google search engine results pages, which were just in Japanese. And so it was just a strange robot that had put links on everywhere.
Yeah.
So you probably got off relatively lightly there. I mean, imagine if you'd had a kind of a data, your data had been compromised now with way more
Yes,
customers.
it wasn't customer details.
Yeah.
It was our content that got manipulated. And
how long did it take you to notice that?
It got noticed by customers saying, what's this page and what's this mean? And then we were like, So we got our developers to investigate it. They eventually found out what it was, but it did, even though we fixed it, it took a long time for it to drop off.
Google? Yeah.
So even a few weeks and months later, it was still there, and we were doing everything we possibly could to get rid of them, but it was just
So the password now is Jack99, is it?
Jack1.
Shed one, Shed 1, 2, 3.
You talked about customer service, which I found really interesting, and I think customer service, although its own discipline, it's absolutely linked to marketing, isn't it? You surprise and delight and give an amazing customer experience, and those customers then go online and say nice things about you and kind of review you and advocate you. I presume that's always been a big focus for you, is it? Great customer service and the rest will take care of itself.
Yeah, I think I was looking at, we're not a company that anyone's heard of, so we need to give as many trust signals on our website as possible, and one of those is reviews, and the next one was awards, which is why I wanted to enter and go for awards. And the more things we have on that website to reassure the customer, the better. And I think it's even more so in Germany. In Germany, when we're launching there, the consumer's even less trusting. They generally only go with companies they've heard of. So a lot of companies in Germany sell with cash on delivery, believe it or not, to reassure the customer that much. You don't need to pay it until you get that product in your hand. So
that feels very old school.
Very old school, but that's how a lot of companies in Germany work. We wouldn't go that far, but when we're a company that isn't heard of, particularly when we get to Germany, that's the more trust signals we have, the better.
And Germany before Ireland, you said. What's the thinking there?
So based on our growth and our awards, we started to get people knocking on the door wanting to invest and buy into us. But we always said that we'd only ever take something where someone could offer a bit more on the table and not just a bit of cash. We sold 50% of the company to a group called BSW Group, who's the biggest timber forestry sort of milling group in the UK, and they're owned by Binder Holtz, who's the biggest timber forestry mill in Europe and the 5th largest in the world. They're a family-owned company, and essentially they chop down trees, turn them into pieces of wood, and sell them to companies such as us or B&Q or Wix. Now, they have mills across the world and partnerships with very large companies. So, for example, they've put us in front of Lowe's, they've put us in front of Home Depot in the US, they can put us in front of Bauhaus, who's like the B&Q of Europe. So having that partnership where they can open the door for us is really, really valuable. Now, they're based in Germany and Austria originally, which is why we're going to go set up in Germany first, because they can help us with that, help us with the translation, help us with the legal setup, which is not easy to do, but it's a good thing, because if it wasn't easy to do, everyone would do it. So having that is the reason why we started in Ireland, in Germany, and then Ireland next, and then who knows where after.
What's the most pimped shed you've seen?
I've seen all sorts of sheds. We sold a shed a couple of weeks ago to Gemma Collins. So that was she put that on Instagram.
Tell us about that.
She's put it on it's actually a 26 foot by 10 foot shed. She's put on her Instagram page. We did a personalised finial saying the GC on it, so she put that on Instagram. But she's using it to store her clothes.
Oh, interesting.
So with you don't not giving anything confidential out here, but if you get approached by a celebrity or an influencer, would you consider doing some kind of contra deal where you might knock some money off in exchange for content or something like that?
Yeah, we get daily requests from home accounts wanting a free shed, so we generally judge it on what we'll get back from it. It's quite hard because some people have lots of followers but very few views, so you've got to really gauge what you think you'll get back, and we might change the discount based on what we think we'll get from that.
And what does kind of value look like if you work with an influencer then? Are you again thinking about that kind of top of the funnel brand awareness and trust piece, or would you try and encourage them to link to your website or to
as long as it links to our Instagram page or it mentions to us, ideally a post or a reel, because it's there forever. I know there's an argument to say go for a story because then more people view it, but it's get views on their page and hopefully a few more followers on our page, and we get a lot of people who look at our page, so that helps. But it is that top of the funnel stuff. So
where can people find your LinkedIn details, etc.? Yeah,
if you search for Jack Sutcliffe Power Sheds on LinkedIn, you'll find me pretty easily. But yeah, feel free to get in touch or connect, and I'll be more than happy to.
And it's powersheds.com.
Powersheds.com.
Okay. Right. Well, thanks for coming along.
Thanks, Jack.
Yeah, great.
So sheds isn't the most glamorous of sectors, if I'm honest, but what Jack's shown is that you can disrupt any sector and you can build a challenger brand in any market. And what I found really fascinating was the fact that he's launched a brand in an unbranded market. And the marketing, my marketing brain immediately started ticking into action, thinking, what other sectors are there where there's no brands dominating? Because that's the opportunity.
You're right. It's not the most interesting, diverse FMCG. It's none of those things, is it? But it is a sector that's around and people do buy from it. But the fact he's gone from like looking at Wix and B&Q, who've got their own brands. He's creating a brand within that market, therefore is disrupting that market because he believes in 10, 15 years that people will want a Powersheds shed rather than a B&Q or Wix shed. So it is an interesting strategy, and the most shocking thing of that interview is he's done that all himself. He's not got a marketing team. So hello, all you marketers out there listening to this. That guy's done it himself. In 5 years, he's won about 15 awards. He's in the Sunday Times fastest growing businesses in the UK. This guy has done it all on his own.
And off camera, he was saying telling us what hours he works, wasn't he? Which is no surprise. He's doing long hours, and any entrepreneurs out there will know that you
classic
have to do that.
entrepreneur drive, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really impressive.
The other thing which really caught my attention was his kind of investment in customer service, and I think that's really important. And it is linked with marketing, isn't it? You get customer service right, and you surprise and delight customers. They become brand advocates. They say nice things about you. They write reviews about you, and it's really linked, isn't it? So you can have the best marketing in the world, but if your customer service is crap, then you're going to fail.
But then every positive review, the best ones he'd got, were from the biggest, welcome to the show, fuck-ups from delivering the product. Actually, they're the ones that by sending a broken product, and then you made the joke about, well, why don't you start sending out broken
once
stuff?
a week, do a broken delivery,
just so you can get a reviewer going, this isn't right, and then they go out there and surprise and delight and do an even better job. I mean, that tells you that they are running a slick operation where they're looking after customers, which is good. I mean, I'd have to go on and check out the reviews and see how, because we all know what online reviews can be like with TripAdvisor, and you get the people that you have to take a view on a brand when you look at them online. So it's great. And he said that there's no other brand in his market that really focuses on reviews. So yeah, that was good.
The other thing that grabbed my attention was the fact that they've literally got this long list of customer complaints about the sector, and they've used that almost as a crib sheet to make their business different and better.
Yeah,
and I think that's really important as well. Whatever sector you're in, looking at those customer frustrations and then trying to address those through your marketing and through your product. And that's the way to achieve that kind of differentiation, isn't it?
Thanks for joining us on Socially Unacceptable. Be sure to subscribe to us on wherever you get your podcasts. Also, don't forget we're on YouTube, so you can check the whole show out on YouTube whenever you want. If you subscribe there, you'll get all the shows as well. We'll see you in a couple of weeks when we've got some great guests. And be sure to let us know where you're listening to us. We're looking for our furthest away listeners. So wherever you are, wherever you're based, drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. And we'll see you again in a couple of weeks.
Thank you for listening to Socially Unacceptable. Please remember to subscribe to the podcast and leave us a 5-star review. Don't forget to follow us on social media on Instagram, TikTok and LinkedIn at Prohibition PR, and Twitter at Socially UA. We would love to hear some of your career fuck-ups so we can share them on the show. For more information on the show, search Prohibition PR in your search engine and click on podcasts. Until next time, please keep pushing the boundaries and embracing the socially unacceptable.